Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss Captain America Brave New World. It is the fourth, of course, Captain America movie. It's kind of the third Hulk movie, in a sense. If you kind of go with Thor Ragnarok, that was like half a Hulk movie, and this was like 80% of a Hulk movie, unfortunately. But I wanted to talk about it instead of doing like a full review because I'd have to wait. And I was like, I'll just talk about it. And of course, there would be spoilers, but non-spoiler wise, I enjoyed it. I would initially it was like, I give it a 7 out of 10. And even after I first saw it, I was like, I could see it going down to a 6. And so at this point, I've had time to sit on it and think about it. And I've watched other reviews and thought about other things that you might think about for like half a second and you forget, and then it's like, oh yeah, I didn't like that, or oh yeah, that was weird. So I'd give it a 6. Like all in all, I'd give it a 6. That's about it. Like, see it once. I think it's worth seeing. Of course, it has its issues, and depending on where you are in terms of how you feel about Black Captain America, it might have extra issues for you. I don't know. But for me, I was just like, hey, I just want to see a movie and it be good. I don't care. Like, it didn't matter to me. So I was going into it like, all right, it's this and Thunderbolts are the two movies, if I'm being totally honest. Like, Fantastic Four, especially with it clearly being in its own universe, is like, all right, of course I want that to be a good movie, but it's not going to have the through line of, 10 effing years, 15 years at this point of all the different phases of the Marvel films where it's like, okay, what is the next step? Where are we going in the future of the MCU? All of these things tie together as it pertains to both Captain America and then, of course, the next one coming out with the Thunderbolts. So I don't know what to expect for Thunderbolts. The last trailer we got, the Super Bowl one, looked really cool, and the stuff they had with the Sentry, great visual and all that. We'll see what happens. But this is the first one where it's like, okay, this is the next movie in the actual line of films. This isn't, a crappy Sony movie where it has nothing to do with anything. This isn't Fantastic Four where it's an alternate universe. It's in line. What happens next? Let's see what happens. We knew they were going to talk about, adamantium and, referencing the Eternals and stuff like that. It was like, okay, I'm excited for that. We knew that Red Hulk was going to be in it. It was like, okay, I'm excited for that. Of course, and everyone has said this. And of course, this was definitely like the main thing that I thought when I actually saw the movie. It was like, oh, okay. So he's like Red Hulk for like the last 5 minutes. He's Red Hulk as the twist of the film. And it's like, yet another moment for me hating people that edit trailers, because I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't understand. And granted, that could have been a Disney thing. I don't know if we can really just put that on the editors themselves. Like, someone edited the trailer, especially with it being Disney. They probably have like, a SWAT team looking over the shoulder of the editor. So they probably choose for sure compared to some other people, because I know there are tons of writers. I think the most famous example was what was it, Terminator? Not Genesis. Or maybe it was one of the last, I think it was Genesis, yeah. And they straight up did the biggest plot twist, was just in the actual trailer of the movie. And even the writer was like, yeah, I'm mad they did that, because that, like, what were you thinking? That's obviously a giant twist. So there are tons of movies that are like that where, hey, here's the whole movie. And when it's a twist, that sucks. And them putting in Hulk is like this bombastic thing, as if Hulk shows up, honestly, even more than once. I mean, you put him in the trailer like that, and put him on the promotions and all that stuff, dude, he got to be in the movie twice, at least twice. He got to show up early or like halfway through, and then they solve a problem, and then the thinker like figures something out to make him react again, or maybe they just use technology to force him into Hulk mode at the end of the movie as well. But like, to have it where they literally did it one time and it was the end of the movie, and it was the giant twist where it's literally like, oh, like the heart pills and stuff like that, and that's gonna turn him into the Hulk, and it's like, it's got gamma in it. It's like, oh, okay, we're done here. Like, we're done. That's it. It looked great. I will say that. Seeing Red Hulk made me so happy, because I was like, my God, I wish they didn't have this excessively dumb licensing issue, because we needed a Hulk movie. We really did. Like, I wanted Hulk back for a long time. I think, like everybody, we all thought he was going to be there in Endgame. It's like, oh, okay, he's Smart Hulk, but he's going to Hulk out at the end. He's going to go classic Hulk, because it's like Smart Hulk. The whole thing about Smart Hulk is that he is a blend of the two. He's, of course, way stronger, but he's not as strong as classic Hulk. That's the whole thing. Of course, at the end battle, he's going to have to go like full angry Hulk. He's going to get his lick back. That makes perfect sense. And somehow they just didn't put that in the writing. Blows my effing mind. You got 20 effing characters, and you were like, we don't need angry Hulk. Like, what are you talking about? It's the Hulk, dude. Especially with what they did to him in Endgame, or Infinity War. So that was crazy. And then of course we didn't get much of him, as far as She-Hulk is concerned. We didn't get a lot of crazy Hulk stuff. Even from She-Hulk, we didn't get a lot of crazy Hulk stuff from her either. And so then we get this movie, and I'm like, wow, I miss the Hulk just being the Hulk. He's jumping off of stuff and blowing up the ground just from leaping. He's leaping in the air and following a dude that's literally flying with like a little jetpack on, and he's basically right behind this man. And it's like, this is I miss this so much. I just want a really good Hulk, and it's just a shame that we just get bits and pieces. And oddly enough, speaking of getting a lot of the Hulk, it's super weird he wasn't in this movie, because let's face it, this was another Hulk movie. As everyone has said, it was more of a sequel to the old Hulk movie, The Incredible Hulk, of course, than it was. Well, I mean, even as a Captain America sequel, it wouldn't follow anything because of everything that's happened. It's a new Captain America. It's a reboot anyway. But the thing that would have made this Captain America movie more Captain America would have been keeping the Serpent Society, the actual Captain America stuff from the comics. And they scrapped all of that, which, I don't know. Like, it's crazy to think, like, with all the reshoots and everything like that it could have really been that bad that they scrapped like 2 separate characters that were initially in this film, and they straight up took them out. So it's really interesting. And of course, it's PR and this, that, and the other. And even though it's already out, I don't think we'll ever get the full answer. I would love it more than anything. That is the story, and it's sad to say this, I think the story of why they chose not to do it is more interesting than the movie we actually got, because movies do reshoots. They do reshoots for sure. And there's tons of movies, we've had other comic book movies. I think it was Amazing Spider-Man 2 initially had like Black Cat in it, if I'm not mistaken, or Mary Jane. It was one of the two. They had one of those characters. I think it was Mary Jane. And they filmed scenes with an actress and everything, and they cut that whole plot line. So it's not like we've never had that before, but it was like widely known that this movie was just all over the place, and like people were like, this is not great. And then like ultra reshoots, it was insane, like up to the final hour. And it's really unfortunate that all the reshoots and everything that happened led to this, based on the movie we got, oddly enough left it being more of a Hulk movie than a Captain America movie, because of course we knew the leader was in it. And I think initially, this is just obviously speculation based off of the fact that there were 2 whole characters cut out of this film. I think this was going to be a lot more like Thor Ragnarok, where it's like, clearly that's how they introduced World War Hulk. That's the only way they can do it, because they can't do just a straight up Hulk movie. But it's still a Thor movie. It's still mostly his stuff, and you could say, kind of half and half. But that was still more Hulk more Thor than it was anything else. I'd say that was 80% Thor, 20% Hulk. And it's like, oh yeah, World War Hulk, that's cool. I wish we got, World War Hulk. That would have been great. But hey, or Planet Hulk, I should say. So, that's cool. But we got it in there. That's the only way they could kind of sneak it in. Like, hey, you guys know this, right? And because we can't get the full movie. I feel like that's what this movie was going to be, except it would have been the Captain America version, where it's like, hey, it's like 80% Captain America, Serpent Society, all that stuff. But the main villain is going to end up being the leader. And then, of course, you have Captain America go up against the Red Hulk, which I think is, a fine idea. Would have been cooler to have Green Hulk versus Red Hulk, which would have been just a way cooler idea. But, hey, that's just me thinking logically, I guess. I don't know. So it's unfortunate with all the insane cuts and stuff that we got. It seems like they cut out most of the Captain America element, because the Serpent Society was just like, boom, we're going to drop this down to one dude. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's your Captain America. You have the character and the title of the movie, and one Serpent Society character that we added in to replace the 2 other characters that had a whole plot line, and we just scrapped all that stuff. So it's really unfortunate that that's how it turned out, because it seems like that's where it was headed based on the news of who and what storylines were cut. Or it was like, you guys kind of unfortunately cut out all the Captain America of the Captain America movie, and then left all the Hulk stuff in. And it's like, I'm a fan of the Hulk. I'm one of the people that's like, The Incredible Hulk is actually a great movie. I actually thought it was sick. I think the action's really good. People say it was meh. I don't know what people are talking about, because it was a Hulk movie that was actually the Hulk. The closest we got to that was the Avengers, and that's it. And I guess if you want to count that one scene of him going crazy in Avengers 2, sure, you can count that as well. But other than that, we don't really have the Hulk that much. We barely got the guy. Hardly. We hardly got him. So it was nice, like I said, to see Red Hulk at the end of this. I thought for sure Bruce Banner was going to show up. At some point, I was just like, all right, they got the Thinker. They got, Thunderbolt Ross. he's Bruce Banner. He's gonna show up, right? Like it was like that like somehow this was the biggest kept secret in the world, right? Leaks and this and that, all over the place. But somehow they kept that a secret, right? He has to be in this movie because clearly it's a Hulk sequel. It's all of these things from The Incredible Hulk. I know they touched on Abomination, obviously, in She-Hulk, but you have Bruce Banner's like main rival in Thunderbolt Ross becoming president, referencing, showing clips. I was shocked they even showed it. I was like, they're not actually going to show any footage of this film. They're going to say it and be like, this is what happened back then. And then they actually showed like flashback footage. And I was like, wow, I thought they were just going to talk about it. I'm shocked that they even bothered to show footage. I genuinely am. So I was surprised by that. Bring back the the car boxing glove thing, because it was just a dumb cool Hulk thing. I liked that back in the day. But they have all this Hulk stuff. Like I said, if they hadn't cut out, probably 70% of all the Captain America stuff, I still would have been like, it's weird that Bruce Banner isn't in it. But, they kind of, did the Thor Ragnarok thing. But it's still mostly Captain America. But with the way it was cut, it's mostly the Hulk. And that's what makes it even worse. Because like I said, if they never planned on having him in there, which clearly they didn't, because there's no way they ever planned on having him in there, and then they're like, we'll cut Bruce Banner. That's impossible. He just was never somehow they couldn't get the guy. I don't understand how that works, because you wait. When you're doing this, you wait to get Bruce Banner. That is it is Thunderbolt Ross. And there is obviously giant nerd comic love aside, it's just insane. This is your one chance. I know you can't make a pure Hulk movie, which oddly enough, like I said, with them cutting so much of the Captain America stuff, this really is the closest we've gotten to a full Hulk movie since The Incredible Hulk. Because like I said, even the Thor movie, it really was mostly focused on Thor, and then Hulk was just there. But this was straight up like, how in the world does a movie without the Hulk in it end up being the closest we've ever gotten to an actual full Hulk movie since The Incredible Hulk? That's insane to me. But somehow they pulled it off. And, we got the movie we got. And getting past the clear, should have been more Hulk in this movie, Green Hulk, of course. The stuff we got, and I just want to go straight to action. I don't think the action was that good in this movie. And that really sucks. I love the ending fight with Red Hulk. Absolutely amazing. I was actually happy watching that because, once again, just seeing a angry Hulk character do stuff, absolutely amazing. I wish they tapped into the heat thing for Red Hulk. They barely showed it, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, why is stuff kind of singeing on his fingertips? People don't know that Red Hulk produces flames when he gets angry. He doesn't get stronger, he gets hotter. People don't know that. And it was they probably should have tapped into that at least a little bit, as far as his anger produces actual heat and stuff. But they referenced it. It was literally if you know the character, that's straight up a reference to what his alternate ability is, if you even want to call it that. So it was it's cool that it's there, the little cherry blossom petals kind of burn away when they come across him during the end fight sequence, until he calms down, of course. And it was that's cool. And when he first bursts out and at the podium and stuff, and he puts his fingers on the ground, it kind of singes where he's touching. I was that's cool. But nobody knows what the F that was for. It's just that's weird. He's heating up because he's transformed. It's no, that's his whole thing. And it's just kind of, it's just there for half a second. And I was I wish they kind of tapped into that. There's so many elements of during the actual fight sequence, especially if they did it where it was when he was squeezing Sam's helmet and he's crushing it. If he was enraged and it was you could see the heat coming off of him, and he's not just crushing it, but you can see that it's starting to melt between his fingers or something. That would have been super cool if they implemented that in some way, shape, or form. But it was just kind of literally a reference. If you understand why things are burning on the skin, then you get it. And if not, it's just oh, that's an interesting thing. It burns on the skin. It's oh, I like that really weird feature of this character. For anyone who doesn't know, the way to kind of beat him is actually to make him so angry he actually overheats, because he expels all the heat within his body, and it exhausts him. It's burning out all of his sweat and everything. That's kind of how you defeat him. You have to obviously do it in a timely manner, because he's got basically flaming fists coming at you that'll, depending on who you are, it can melt your skin off if he punches you. But obviously he's the Hulk, he can just hit you hard enough. So there's a time limit to it, and a risk versus reward situation there. But obviously it's just a Hulk. go for broke and stab him up a bit, which I thought was cool, and I was like, all right, like he kind of hits him with the wings and stuff, and like it's vibranium, so very similar to Wolverine fighting against the Hulk where it's adamantium and stuff. So I was like, okay, that totally makes sense where he can cut him and stab him and stuff, because that happens with the Hulk, like, which is so funny. Like, bullets don't affect them as much as knives do. If it's like the right material, you can actually like cut through them, but they'll get hit with like normal bullets and they bounce off, and it makes it seem so dumb, but it makes perfect sense when you have to think about the fact that it's comic book super materials and minerals, and that's why they can cut through them, but the bullets can't. And I always find that really funny, because I'm like, I'm sure somebody watching this is like, so he can't get hurt by bullets, but he can stick them with a wing? I know that there are a bunch of people that saw this movie that are like, that makes no sense, but it's like comic book mineral stuff. Like, technically it makes sense. It's funny to think about it, but it does make a lot of sense. So I like the way they did the fight in the end, and like I said, the whole chase sequence and him actually being just an angry Hulk and jumping on airplanes and throwing airplanes into other airplanes that apparently just don't stop shooting, even though they're clearly going into a downward spiral. And I'm like, wow, those bullets are just ripping through. Like, the bullets are so powerful, they were like shredding through the building, and I'm like, they just keep firing, huh? Are these automated? Because even these automated systems should know, oh my god, stop firing on everybody. But they didn't. They were just firing like wild, and he's just twisting and turning this helicopter. And I'm like, they just killed like 300 other people. Those bullets are like, that was insane to me. I was like, those bullets should have stopped, but they just kept going. I was like, looks cool. Very dangerous, very dangerous. But love that action sequence. And then of course them flying around, Sam and Joaquin flying around. That looked cool during that fight sequence. Obviously, Sam I consider him pulling a Bayonetta. If you get this reference, then you get it. If not, it's fine. But when he surfed the missile, I was like, oh, Bayonetta won. So I was like, oh, he pulled a Bayonetta. That's cool. That was nice. It was a nice sequence. I wasn't like losing my mind about it, but it was okay. I enjoyed it enough, but I wasn't like over the moon crazy about it. And it was just like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Other than that, and the one time that Sam kicked Sidewinder, when he like kicked him super insanely hard and launched him into that truck, into like the windshield of that truck, I was like, that was an insanely strong kick that he just double drop kicked him. I was like, that looked cool. Wish we got more of that, just like ridiculous just kicks to the face or just some cooler moves. Those are the three things I think of. Other than that, I'm like, I did not enjoy the action that they had. It was not that good. Like, there was some cool stuff, the very first action sequence when he drops down on the people and then the sonic boom comes after him and he's unaffected because of all the vibranium tech around him, and like he can land super fast and it absorbs all of that energy that would have obviously like shattered the bone in his legs. I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to use the technology. The way he beat Red Hulk, where he stabs him because of the excessive amount of force that the Hulk puts into the wings, he just sets it off as an explosion in his ribcage, basically. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool way to do that, to utilize the wings and, cutting through the cars that are thrown at him and blocking things. It's like, I like that. But when he has to go hand to hand, I'm telling you, something about it was like, this is like slow motion. And not only slow motion, it just doesn't look that entertaining. It just felt like kind of slow. Like, there's some elements, of course, when he would like throw the shield, like during, of course, some of the first action sequence, and he's throwing the shield pretty much just like Steve is, and he's going through and he's tossing the shield and hitting 4 people at once and stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool. I like seeing the use of the shield. I wish that they utilized the fact that him not having the super soldier serum made him use the shield even more, because oddly enough, like, I think once they figured it out with Civil War, they're like, what if we just had him be a brawler, which is actually why I like watching Captain America fight so much, because he's hand-to-hand combat. But I would have loved it if they were like, okay, Sam obviously has that, he has military training and all this stuff. What if, instead of having him ditch the shield, because of course he has super strength, he can kick a dude 10 feet, what if he actually utilizes the shield even more than Steve ever did? Like, I think that's actually a really cool way to do it. And of course, Steve used the shield a lot, but like I said, when it comes to like hand-to-hand combat, he really doesn't. When you really think about it, like when he's up close and personal, he'll block a couple things, but it always ends up being the shield falls away and then he's just punching stuff because he has super strength. He can do that. Like, you go Avengers 2, I'm sorry, but Sam Wilson is not about to go hand-to-hand because Ultron ripped the shield out and threw it in the side of a truck. It ain't happening. Like, obviously, if he had the wings, that's how he would use those moves. And I'm like, man, they should have stuck with the shield a little bit more. And even when they kind of do, it's like, when he throws it, it's nice. And then sometimes it feels like it's kind of half and half. He uses it and it seems cool. And then it's like, oh, okay, still could have been a little bit better with the hand-to-hand stuff. So unfortunately, I was like, man, that was the thing that I kind of like the most when it comes to, especially like Winter Soldier. Of course, the opening sequence when he killed those people. Let's face it, he killed those people on that boat, and it's fine. It's Captain America. He killed those people with super strength, but it looked really cool when he did it. When he did like a flying knee to a guy's chest, and he has super strength, he caved that man's chest in like a Mortal Kombat X-ray, and he murdered him, and that's okay. He had to do what he had to do. Sam Wilson can't do that, so at least let him do something sweet. And the fight that he has where the dude like breaks his ribs, he's like, nah, I got shit to do, and he made a joke about it. And then he does like one cool move and he like breaks his arm. I'm like, what would have been cooler? If he used the tech that he had, like if Red Wing was like his assistant there or something, and he like, flashbangs the dude or something, and he gets a combo in or something like that. But it was just like, okay, like his reversals were good. I will say that. He has a couple of like random reversals where someone gets a move on him and then he like flips them all over the place. And I was like, they don't do that a lot in movies at all. Like you don't see a lot of like reversal takedowns. And that was the one thing that I took note of, because he does it, unfortunately, he only does it like twice. And both times I was like, you do not see that a lot in action movies where it's like the reversal is the final move. And I thought that was sick. And I was like, man, they should have leaned into that a lot more. If he's not doing like the brawler stuff, make it where it's, like him doing like counters. And that's how he like takes people down, because he doesn't have the super strength. Have him focus, instead of being more direct in his attacks, have him focus on like counter attacks. And I think, boom, there you go. Like that's a new way to do his combat. And of course, utilize the shield and stuff. And he of course has offensive combat with the shield, and of course his natural, hand-to-hand combat skills. But have him be like really focused on counters. And that's how you can make his combat a bit more unique. Because when he did it twice, I was like, you don't ever see that as the final move. Like you see counters here and there. Like, even counters in general, you don't see too often. But when you see counters as like the final blow that took somebody down, it really stands out. It stands out way more than just like the final like cool puncher. Well, like I said, when he did a double drop kick, you can't get crazier than a double drop kick. That leaves you so wide open. You better land the move. So outside of a double drop kick, him doing those two reversals as like the final move, I was like, that's really sick. You don't see that often. They should have, utilized that more. Like, utilize more counters, or have him use the environment more. Make it like a effing video game. Like, he doesn't have super strength. Have him, like, just pull somebody down, and he ducks, and they just hit their head straight on the wall. Something, like, just crazy stuff that I can think of. Because it was a little too slow motion for me. And it just didn't look Superman. Like, I don't think any of the hand-to-hand combat I will ever go back to. At some point, when this hits Disney Plus, I'll be like, sure, I'll check out the flight sequence, like, maybe one time. And I'll probably check out the Hulk scene a couple of times. Every once in a while, I'll be like, you know what? I just want to see a cool Hulk moment. I'll watch Red Hulk versus Captain America. And that's it. And like, Civil War has a buttload of stuff where I'm like, or not Civil War, but, well, that has some cool stuff too. But Winter Soldier is like, I love those action sequences. I love the hand-to-hand combat. And I thought we were going to get it again, even if we didn't get the feeling of Winter Soldier, which of course they played that up in the trailer. We did not get that in this movie. It was close, and that's why when I first saw it, I was like, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It had moments, I'd say the last 40 minutes, when they were doing all the revelations and stuff, I was like, okay, it's starting to like, we're getting answers, it's starting to feel really cool. You're finding out why this dude is like against Thaddeus Ross, and it's because he locked him away for basically 20 effing years and was like, hey, I'll just let you out. And then Thaddeus Ross is a douchebag. I thought the actual storyline was incredibly well done for as far as Ross is concerned. I'm like, him being such an a-hole that this dude helped him become president, and he was still like, meh, you can burn in hell. I was like, yeah, that sounds like Thaddeus Ross to me. That sounds like the dude that I know from the comic books, and he's just an a-hole. And I was like, that actually totally works as his storyline. And somehow it just, as a whole, the movie just doesn't work. And of course, there's the whole element of the leader, and I think I called him the thinker earlier. Either way, same thing. Him and his probabilities, and it's like, at first it was cool. It was like, you really surprised me. Like, it's probabilities. He doesn't know the future. It's potential. And then it just keeps going, and it's like, the one time you're like, I was really surprised. And then the other time he failed, he let out that really dumb scream on the phone, which was like, oh, that wasn't cool, man. That was not a cool moment for you, buddy. That didn't work for you. They should have cut that like they cut a bunch of other stuff from the movie. But like a lot of people have said, him and his probabilities, they just didn't come out as cool as they seemed. It was only that one time when he was like, oh, you did something that surprised me because the odds were slim. Every time the odds are slim, it's either he instantaneously figures out the problem, or it was never actually a problem to begin with, because that's what he planned all along. And it's like, you're like right in the middle, and you could have had it perfect. And all they had to do was say, oh, that plan failed. And then he actually figures out the problem anyway. That's all they had to do. But they don't do that. They don't do the perfect middle ground where something goes wrong and in an instant, he's like, no problem, I solved it. Which I guess his weird solution was sacrificing himself. And a lot of people bring this up. He wants Thaddeus to suffer, which I understand. But him waiting until the end to give himself up, and then he does the thing where he lets out the videotape, I'm like, I don't really get it. You literally could have just done this a long time ago and still turned him into the Hulk. There's a lot of ways it could have been truncated, and he would have turned him into the Hulk and still wouldn't have even gone to prison. He could have just been like, hey, I'm going to give him these pills to save his life, turn him into the Hulk when he gets really mad, and make everybody see him for who he really is. And that totally could have worked. And he still would have been like, everybody would have been like, oh, yeah, that was a dick move on his part. You're free to go. In some regard, at least, you're kind of free to go. But no, he ended up being a supervillain again. And I'm like, I feel like as a character that's so effing intelligent, you'd find a way not to go to prison. But that's just my thoughts on it. And I think that's a good spot to end it for this film. I think I said everything that needs to be said from my perspective. So I would love to know what you guys thought about Captain America: Brave New World. Where we're going, moving forward. Of course, they mentioned the Avengers, rebuilding that. We'll just see what happens. We'll see what, Thunderbolts. That's what I'm waiting on. So we'll see what happens there. But I would love to know your thoughts on where we are now with Brave New World. I hope that they allow Sam Wilson to be a cool Captain America and give him his own film that's actually really good. We'll see what happens, because this was definitely a Hulk movie. And unfortunately, it was the Hulk. It was the closest we got to a Hulk sequel, and somehow it didn't even have the Hulk in it. At least not the one we know of. So we'll see what happens going forward. I would love to know your thoughts on Brave New World. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.